And quite frankly, it's easier to let people go when we have these standards that we hold ourselves to. Because if I'm not playing about myself, why would you come in my world thinking that you finna play about me? Why would you come over here thinking that I'm about to let this walk and I'm about to let this slide? Like, that's not the case. Hey y'all, it's Megan May and this is Transparency, where we talk about our growing pains and all the beautiful moving parts of life that may not be the most glamorous but shape us into who we are today. And today we'll be talking about self-love. And quite frankly, these are things that we can implement throughout the entire year, our entire lives. Like, self-love and love in general isn't meant to just be felt in the month of February or the first half of February before and leading up to Valentine's Day. This is something that we should continuously do. Continue pouring into ourselves, showing ourselves affection, attention, love, grace, energy, and all of the like that we extend to those that we love that are not of ourselves. You get what I'm saying? So let's get into it. Let's talk about the importance of self-love. So why is self-love important? Well, I mean, to some of us that answer might be obvious, but for those of us where the answer is still kind of trivial, I want to just go ahead and point out that self-love is the foundation of all love. As we all hear all the time, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so why self-love is super important is because it builds a foundation. And like with anything else that you're building, that you're growing, that you're nurturing, you need to have a strong foundation for it to be sustainable. So self-love is important because it builds the foundation for all the other love that you have in your life. It also promotes your overall mental and emotional well-being because you're learning how to cater to yourself in times where you may feel in distress or even lonely, or you feel like probably misunderstood, like you're in the corner, backed into the corner by yourself and nobody is coming to save you. You might feel drowned by life's obligations. It's in those moments where self-love comes and shines through. Other moments where self-love can show, the upper hand is when you feel moments of doubt and you need, that extra boost of confidence. Self-love is a reflection of your self-esteem. The way that you care for yourself, the way that you show up for yourself day after day is reinforcing the idea of how much you love yourself. Discipline, something that a lot of us lack, is a way to show yourself all the time, even when it seems like nobody's watching, that you really do love yourself, because you're upholding yourself to fulfill the commitments that you make with yourself in private. And there's no other way to show yourself how important you are, how respected you are, and how loved you are than being disciplined. And it's a work in progress, but we'll come back to that later. The second reason that I want to list for self-love and why it's important is because self-love allows you to really learn how to accept yourself. Now, we all have things about ourselves that we don't really too much care for. Maybe it's something that we want to change. And I'm not even speaking of like cosmetic changes. Like, if that's something that you're looking into, that you feel like, oh, I'm insecure about this part of my body, I would like to change it, then by all means, as long as you're doing it for you, go right on ahead. But when I say accept ourselves, I mean accept the darkest parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that maybe nobody else knows about, and kind of like causes us to self-sabotage in a way. I think once you learn how to accept yourself, you can really focus on building up your worth. And once you build up your worth, you realize just how much you matter. And once you realize just how much you matter, you then start to pour into yourself from a mental and physical standpoint. So what does this mean? Going back to like I was talking about with the first little, tip on why self-love is important, is discipline. Discipline showcases itself in many of ways, but I want to say that when we look at our worth and we look at the commitments that we dedicate ourselves to for our betterment and for our higher selves, we need to really think about, how am I reflecting to myself that I really see myself worthy of having a better life? physically, that means, am I getting enough rest? Am I eating healthy? Am I focusing on my nutrition? Am I focusing on my fitness, my wellness, things of that nature? Because let's be real, if you're not honoring your body, if you're not taking care of your body, then at the end of the day, what is everything else that you're working for or working towards in life? What is that really good for? Not much of anything, because once your health starts to decline, you're not going to be able to put all that energy and all that focus into all the external things. So you have to take care of your body first and foremost. And taking care of your body also extends into your mental health. So I don't know if it was noticed by many, but I did take 2 weeks off from posting transparency, and it was definitely for me to get myself together mentally. I feel like I was, very challenged in the month of January. And that's not to make any excuses, but as we touched on in the video with Lexi, it's very important to do check-ins with yourself and to be honest with yourself. And once you're honest with yourself, it's way easier to accept yourself, because you understand that the faults and the flaws that you sometimes try to hide, not even from the world, but from yourself. You sometimes may find yourself ignoring things about yourself that need a little bit more attention, that need a little bit more catering to. And once you finally shed some light on those things, you're able to reel yourself back in before you get, I guess, drown yourself too much into the darkness. And I say that to say that having mental health check-ins and honoring how you feel mentally is very important. And that's one of the best ways to show yourself love, is by honoring yourself through doing detailed and thorough check-ins. How am I feeling? What is bothering me? Am I okay? Spend some time alone and see, are you genuinely okay, or are you okay when you're around people that love and care for you? But when you're alone, are you able to love and care for yourself? Self-care, very important. But it goes deeper than the massages, getting your nails done, getting your hair done. It gets deeper than that. How are you looking after yourself day after day? Are you getting up and, staying on top of your hygiene practices? Are you making your bed? What does your environment look like? How are you keeping up your spaces? Things of that nature. All of those things really feed into how you feel mentally. And so I really want us to focus on not even just our internal when it comes to mental health, so not just journaling or talking to your therapist, but also externally. How are we fostering environments that's going to help us, thrive in a mental capacity? So I touched on this before when I was talking about the first reason as to why self-love is important, but just to reiterate, another reason why self-love is important is because it really helps you to have positive and healthy relationships. What does that look like? That means that you have healthy boundaries, which we talk about all the time, because boundaries are so important. And boundaries are not restrictions that you're putting on other people, but it's creating a safe space for yourself so that you can thrive on your own, and you can also thrive in your relationships, because nobody is stepping on the other person's toes. The respect is being reciprocated. You are being honored by yourself and by those around you. So you're never really feeling depleted. You're never really feeling used and abused, things of that nature. But self-love is also important because it also helps you to form positive and healthy connections with other people that might not already exist in your community. So what does that look like? You might be more confident to go out there and meet new friends or meet new people for opportunities of any kind. And in this day and age, I'm learning that that's something that's very important. Something that I don't feel like a lot of people really speak on enough, because it's really not about what you know these days. It's more about who you know. And being somebody who's more so introverted and living my shell, I'm very social with my people, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm openly social. And I used to be when I was younger, so I don't really remember when the transition took place. I have an idea, but It's very important for you to have positive connections with people who are just in your network, and not necessarily your best friends or your close acquaintances, but being able to meet people and have positive interactions and create a strong rapport is very important. And that is an effect of good self-love. But I know the idea of going outside and meeting people and building these positive connections might sound a little bit intimidating to some of us who live in our shell. But what I want you to remember is there's nothing really scary about meeting people. Like, yes, there's crazy people in the world, but be easy on yourself. I feel like a lot of the times we get in our own way and we get in our own head by thinking the worst of the worst. And that might come from challenges that you've had in the past, defeats, failures that you've experienced in the past. But don't allow those things to really stand in the way, because I can't think of the word that I'm thinking of, but don't allow those things to stand in your way of going and expanding your net and taking the world by storm or by force and doing what you know that you're capable of. Sometimes things might seem hard, might seem challenging, but that is another testament to just how much you love yourself, is showing yourself grace in the times where you need it, and understanding that sometimes things are hard, sometimes things are difficult, but that doesn't mean you run in the opposite direction. You have to be able to look challenges in the face and really commit to seeing things to the end. And even if that's something as small, and I say that lightly, but small as going out and meeting new people, let that be a challenge that you really, take seriously. Don't say like, oh, I'm gonna go and meet some people like by going to happy hour, and then you go to happy hour but you don't actually speak to anybody. I mean, like, the first time that you give it a try, if you just make it to a happy hour and you don't really speak to nobody, then cool, you can give yourself a pat on the back for that, because at least you showed up. But after that first time, okay, we need to make some headway. What are you gonna do next? Find at least one person to chop it up with, even if it's a quick little convo about something silly. Like, you have to continue to give yourself that reassurance that you are capable of doing hard things, and affirm to yourself that challenges do not define you. You are going to come out on top of any challenge or any adversity that you see set in your path. And because you love yourself, you're going to see to it that that is the truth. That is something that reigns true at the end of the day. And also remember that all challenges are a part of our success. We have talked about fear of failure on multiple occasions, but when we love ourselves, we understand that there is no growth without fail. We have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable environments, and not anything that's going to be to our detriment, but just things that are going to shape us and mold us and show us just how much we can persevere and persist, and not really fold in a time of discomfort, but show up for ourselves in ways that we probably didn't even know we were capable of. And that is how success is birthed, by doing the things that we didn't really see ourselves doing for whatever reason. It could be because people in our lives have, created boundaries, or not even boundaries. I'll call them like fake limitations for us, and they're in our ear telling us that this is impossible and nobody has done this before, and look at where you come from, or just any of those things that are meant to discourage you. And a lot of the times too, I'll say this, I feel like when you share your ideas with other people, like, it might be uncomfortable, because when we have ideas that we deem like sacred to ourselves, we don't necessarily care for the outside opinions, but at the same time, there are times where we're super excited and we just feel like we want to share with somebody. Like, this just sounds so brilliant, this just sounds so exciting, we want to share with somebody. And it's in those times where sometimes we are hit with negative feedback. So what I would say in those moments is to just dust yourself off. You can listen, but you don't have to digest everything that's being said to you. And there are things that you can consider when people have negative things to say about your dreams or your goals. we need to go into things with a realistic approach, but realistic doesn't mean that you limit yourself to the beliefs of other people or what you've seen to come true for other people. You are your own person, and I firmly believe that the visions that we hold for ourselves are given to us for a specific purpose and a specific reason by God. So it doesn't have to make sense to everybody. And in fact, it might not make sense to most people. But if you believe that you're capable of doing it, regardless of how crazy it might sound, how outlandish it might seem, then go after it. And trust that you possess all the capabilities and qualities to be able to see that thing through. And self-belief is a direct reflection of self-love. So, yeah, you just don't want to really allow the shallow thinking, the naysayers to really get in your way or get the best of you. But in saying all of that, I also just want to say that because you show yourself love and you give yourself the positive affirmations and you give yourself the reassurance, I've noticed for myself, and I can also speak on the behalf of some of the other people that I love, that I've witnessed go through like a transformation of low self-esteem, not really knowing their worth, not really standing on their values, to the complete opposite. When you love yourself and you really show yourself the love that you deserve, you really pour into yourself, you're less likely to tolerate negative and toxic relationships anyways. And so you'll be able to have stronger discernment about who exactly your people are and be able to hold true to that when you're sharing life's joys, when you're going about new things in life. You're able to really decipher who exactly do you want to let in close to this sacred thing, who exactly do you want to be there to celebrate with you when you accomplish something new, who is it that you really want to call when you go through something hard or challenging and you need some advice, you need some inspiration, some motivation, or just a shoulder to cry on. You're able to decipher those things way easier because you can tell just from the love that you show yourself the people that genuinely love you. And I think at times too, we kind of can be misled by people because people can tell us they love us, but they're not loving us in the ways that we're actually going to be able to see and receive and genuinely hold on to. They're loving us in their ways of love. And some people's love or definition of love or how they show love is completely toxic, but they know nothing else. That's not your problem. That doesn't mean that you have to tolerate anything that you normally wouldn't tolerate. That doesn't mean that you have to give a pass to anybody that you feel like isn't loving you correctly. You can appreciate the efforts, you can appreciate the intention, but the effect is more important. And so when you notice that people are coming into your lives, or people may already exist in your life who say they love you, but they don't really showcase the love that you feel like you deserve, honor yourself by creating that distance in the relationship. If that means completely cutting them out of your life, then cool. If that means, not really sharing the nearest and dearest moments of your life with them, then cool. However you see fit. But when it comes to tolerating people for the sake of history, for the sake of, they're telling you all the fine things, they're telling you all the good things that they think you want to hear, and maybe at times you do want to hear and you feel like you might not be getting it from anywhere else, you have to completely abolish that, because loving yourself creates a certain certainty in yourself where you know that you don't have to take any old thing from any and everybody. You know what's toxic, you know what's healthy, you know what's negative, you know what's genuine, and you know how to really vet out those people who really have your back. And so I really want us to highlight our values, our beliefs, and the way that we want to receive love, the way that we want to feel loved in our darkest and our lightest times, and really cling on to those people who show us love in the ways that really resonate with us the most. Because it's really not even just about who's the most supportive or, you know, who shows up for you, but also we also have to pay attention to the people that are mistreating us, who are taking advantage of us, who are using and abusing us, who are the ones who always call but never really seems to reciprocate, you know, the way that you might show up for them. We have to really start shedding more light onto these things, because the more that we extend ourselves, the more that we continue to give to others, the more benefit of the doubt that we continue to provide to others who really go about things like they're just invincible. The more we're disrespecting ourselves, the more that we're neglecting ourselves, the more that we're not showing ourselves the love that we deserve. So we really have to make, you know, that call about what is it and who is it that we're willing to not even tolerate, but allow into our space, and why. But to go ahead and wrap up, I just want to say that having self-love really gives you the empowerment that you need to be assertive and live by your values, to not fold, to not compromise on anything that you deem important, and you feel like that's the standard that you want to set for the people that's coming into your life, for the people that already exist in your life. That is the standard that you hold for yourself, so those that are around you have to live up to that same standard. And to wrap, I just want to say that showing yourself love really helps you to live in alignment with who you are, with what you desire, and it helps you to be completely authentic to who you are, regardless of how dark of a time you might be going through, or, you know, how hard of a time you might be going through. I feel like when you really showcase self-love on a regular basis, not just for a season, not just on a special day of the week, but all the time, giving yourself that time, that attention that you need, pouring into yourself every single day in at least one, but hopefully more than one way. Because really, in our day-to-day, we're giving ourselves to so many other people. Why not put aside time to really pour into ourselves, pour into our own cups, do the things that make us happy, do the things that put us a step further ahead, and really shape the future that we desire for ourselves? When we love ourselves, we live authentically to who we know ourselves to be, and we allow ourselves to lean on our values and not compromise on those things because of the things and the people that might come and go in our lives. We live true to who we are, and we show ourselves a certain level of respect and dignity, and set a standard that everyone coming and going into our lives have to live by. And quite frankly, it's easier to let people go when we have these standards that we hold ourselves to. Because if I'm not playing about myself, why would you come in my world thinking that you finna play about me? Why would you come over here thinking that I'm about to let this walk and I'm about to let this slide? Like, that's not the case. So I really want us to pour into ourselves in all the ways that we can. If you need to make a list, then make a list. And we can talk about love languages and how those apply to ourselves in a whole nother segment, in a whole nother episode. But for now, that's all I have for you. In this month, in every month, and every day, and every year, I want it to be a priority for us to really tap into what is it that we need, what is it that we love most about ourselves, and what is it that we want most for ourselves, and really give those things the most attention in our day-to-day. Regardless of whatever hats you wear in your life, you are the most important relationship that you have. So I leave you all with that, and I'll see you guys maybe in a few days. All right, toodles.